And a good Tuesday evening, everyone. Chris MacDonald, MacFiles on this early bird special. We're a little late to be doing an early bird, but we've been running a little behind today. We have been working on a project, and I'm going to get right to this interview, though. We've got a dear guest tonight. Erin Moffett will be with us on the early bird. This won't be live. This will be pre-recorded. The interview actually took place about 2 weeks ago, so some of the material will be a little dated. We actually did this interview on the day of Elijah Cummings' funeral. And we're going to be talking about Elijah Cummings again at the beginning. This will be the last show you'll ever hear me mention his name. But me and Erin, we discussed Elijah a little bit. So you'll be hearing it tonight again for the final time. But it's a great interview. We're going to be dealing with technology tonight and Erin's insight on how the deep state and other elites and the globalists are using this technology that all of us have, and cell phones, computers, and everything, how they're using it to destroy us, basically. And it's going to be a great interview. And we hope you stick around for it. No, I'm not going to have any. I'm not going to have any ads tonight. I'm going to go right to it after I say goodbye here. Won't be any afterthought on this show. But tonight at 10:15, Darius Mayfield will be with us tonight. Great young man. You don't want to miss this interview. We're going to be talking to Darius about an event coming up Saturday in the city of brotherly love in Philadelphia, and you don't want to miss this tonight at 10 o'clock. So stay with us tonight. I want to welcome Erin back to the show. We love this young lady. She's such a sweetheart, but she's also just a very knowledgeable person. Great YouTube channel, deep thinker, and these are my kind of folks, and I'm so glad to have her back on the MacFiles tonight. You're going to enjoy her. Just in case you've never heard of her, you're about to get to meet her, and you're going to enjoy Erin Moffett. And here she is right now, Erin Moffett, on an Early Bird MacFiles special. And again, this is a pre-recorded interview. So if the folks come in the chat room late and asking if it's live or pre-recorded, it's pre-recorded, and it is a little, I would say dated. It's a couple of weeks, maybe a week and a half. But we did this the day of Elijah Cummings' funeral. So just keep that in mind as you're listening to it. We're glad to have you tonight on the MacFiles. Got a lot of exciting announcements to make tonight on the Afterthought and during the late show. But stay with us for that later. Darius Mayfield coming up tonight at 10:15 on a Tuesday night. MacFiles Early Bird Special. Here's Erin Moffett. Thank you, Erin, for being with us tonight. Here she is, guys. Be blessed. And a good evening, everyone. Chris MacDonald, special MacFiles broadcast. We're very honored to have a dear friend back with us. She's been with us before, and we've got some interesting stuff to talk about. It's Erin Moffett. Her YouTube channel is of the same name, and every time she comes on, we always have a great response from people. And excited to have her back on tonight. Erin Moffett, good to see you, friend. You're looking good, and looking forward to this discussion. I know we got some interesting stuff, and we'll talk about a lot of things, but let me welcome you first and tell you it's great to have you back on the MacFiles, friend. Always a pleasure.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate being here. It's fun.
It's always fun. It is, dear. Erin, I want to just, before we get into the main reason I brought you on, I do want to just get your opinion, if you have a few minutes. As the time we're airing this, or recording it, Elijah Cummings passed away today. We're recording this on the 17th of October, but it may air a few days later. But I was just wanting to get your initial reaction to that. I was just sharing with you before the show came on. We did a live cast that morning, and Stacy Shiflett, the pastor that he has a church in Elijah Cummings' district, and we were just stating his record. He basically was just reading what he voted for, and I tell you what, the calls came out very, very quickly. Some ugly things were being said to him, and me too, really. But what was your thoughts on Elijah Cummings? I don't think this was a good man, and look, you can't. I don't care how you sugarcoat him and try to make him a saint. He was not a saint. He was trying to destroy this country, and he definitely was trying to destroy President Trump.
Well, it's quite interesting that nobody knew he was ill, and all of a sudden we hear he's been on hospice care and he passed away in the night. Meanwhile, you have Nancy Pelosi speaking to the illness of the president over and over and over and how he's not fit to serve, but nobody knew this guy's walking around with a little cart and a walker. So he's been apparently ill for months, and nobody knew. But meanwhile, his wife is getting hit with some kind of lawsuit today from the IRS. Yeah. And today being the 17th, if anyone's a Q follower, it's the 17th. But also this is the date in 1777 when we had allies with England and the whole United States war back then, where we got our freedoms. And so it's kind of an interesting day. And Biden even alluded to the day, the 17th, for some reason, when he was talking during this one of their circuses the other night in the
Yeah.
Democrat rally type of deal. So whatever is going on with that, I have a friend who has some actual MK Ultra programming that found it interesting that his death means, you know, because his name is Elijah Cummings, it could have something to do with your Elijah is dead and he's not coming. So they're trying to scare us maybe, or trying to say, you know, Jesus is whatever, right? There's a lot of ways you could look at this, and I'm not, and I don't know what all that means, but what I think is interesting is, like I said, that nobody knew he was ill, and here he is all of a sudden dead. And he is a horrible man. He would say, why not abort the babies? We're just going to kill them later anyway. These are words out of his own mouth. And you look at his city and what a piece of garbage it's turned into, and he has no care in the world for it. He's got tons of money. Again, his wife is under scrutiny, getting hit with some kind of a lawsuit from the IRS again today. And so what are they doing, trying to keep our eyes away from that money that he was just raking in while the city was suffering?
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. And you make a lot of good points. And I'll you know, it's not just his wife. Before he died, I mean, President Trump had put a big spotlight on this $340 billion that the federal government had given Baltimore over the last probably 5 years. Nobody can account for it. Nobody has any idea where that money's went to. And as you mentioned the trash, you mentioned the cities, you mentioned the rat-infested areas of Baltimore. You nailed it right on target. And Elijah Cummings was silent. He never would give an account to that. My memory of Elijah Cummings in recent times, I don't follow Baltimore politics. I just thought he was a disgusting, vile human being every time he'd open his mouth. But the memory that I had that stuck with me was the night of the Baltimore riots, when he was walking down the streets of Baltimore trying to convince the media that the riots were not as bad as the media, the right-wing media, was portraying it. And he was arm in arm with Jesse Jackson. He was arm in arm with that horrible mayor. And the police and the DA, the one that basically falsely accused those 4 cops in the Freddie Gray case, and basically wound up in trouble herself over that. And Elijah was right there, you know, patting her on the back and, oh, you did a great job. You took one for the team of justice here in Baltimore, when all of it was a sham, all of it was a scam. He destroyed his city. But Erin, what bothered me most with Elijah Cummings was the travesty of justice that he wove with his subpoena power, because when the Democrats took back over the House, he became head of the House and Ways Means Committee, and he had a pretty high-ranking role in the Judiciary Committee. And Elijah, he was always going after the president illegally. In other words, he was throwing those subpoenas out like handing out candy, and he never cared about the ramifications of that and threatening and all this. And I'm going to tell you something. There's a spiritual component to this to me, and I know I'm already getting hammered for saying it. I'll say it again. There was divine intervention in this death. You come up against God's anointed. You come up against a man that God has appointed for a time as this. You're going to pay a price. I don't speak ill of the death. I know he's got a family, and that's fine. The family can mourn, they can be upset, sad, or whatever, but you can't erase Elijah Cummings' memory, and you can't erase Elijah Cummings' record, and you can't erase the fact that he was a crooked, corrupt politician for 30 years or more in Baltimore. He was a thug. He was a political thug, and you know something? He's no longer a political thug. He's gone from the face of the earth, and I don't mean that to be disrespectful, but that's just the facts. That's just how the facts are.
And because of that, they'll have a special election, so they may turn the state red. I'm going to say a few things. It's definitely a spiritual component to it, because it's a spiritual warfare. And if you ask people in the days of worship to Moloch, now I know that this still goes on today, but when there was huge tribes of people out in the open putting their children on a hot iron statue of a cow to burn them alive, and that's what they did, as these sacrifices, and David was supposed to take out an entire group of people like that, men, women, and children. There's a reason for that. So I don't care about his family. So if you took heat, I'll take more. I'm not afraid of it, okay? His family is worthless. Everything he's attached to is worthless, and it's all part of the same evil tribe that are putting babies on hot iron statues. And so I will say it even more than you will. He deserves to be gone, and I don't care if his family's not mourning him anyway, because he could have either been a sacrifice to them or something else came in.
Well, you made a good point, and I'm okay with you saying that. And because look, the name of the wicked, there's a psalm, and I don't know the psalm, but there's a psalm that David wrote, and he literally says it, and the Holy Spirit inspired David to write it. He said the name of the wicked is going to rot under heaven. In other words, when the wicked is gone, their name will be forgotten. Elijah Cummings will be forgotten in a few. His memory will not be remembered. He's not going to be remembered as the great person on this earth. And again, his legacy, whenever you mention the babies, you mention the abortion, he was one of the most pro-abortion killing representatives we've ever had in this nation. And it is without a doubt, there's blood all over his hands. But see,
absolutely,
that this whole thing, he's being painted in the media as this stalwart of civil rights, Erin. He's being painted as this bastion of angelic proportions when he did nothing but sow division. He was a race baiter. He was just as bad as Jackson, just as bad as Sharpton, just as bad as any of them. Everything was about race. Everything was about color. Everything was about racial discrimination. It was always the blacks getting discriminated against. And then, as you said, as you rightly said, his city was in the freaking toilet, both sanitation-wise, financial-wise. Baltimore's going bankrupt. And then the $20 million question, pardon the pun, is where's $340 freaking billion that was in the care of Elijah Cummings? Where did it go? And then, as you said, you got his wife out there under investigation. Look, this is not something that has been taken lightly, and I just don't think this was by happenstance. I thought about what you said about could it have been a sacrifice, a ritual. You know, there's a pretty good chance it was, because again, some of these investigations now will stop because he's dead. And I think that, well, personal opinion is they don't need to stop him. I think they need to keep investigating and get to the bottom of what happened, because now you don't have the obstruction that you would have with him in the picture. That's just me.
Well, and it's the month of October, and there are going to be a lot of blood sacrifices because of Halloween and everything. But, and some people may not get into that. So one thing I'll bring up is the Boule, again, because you've allowed me to come on and talk about that. He's obviously a Boule member, when the Boule being the black skull and bones. They are the house Negroes, while everybody that lives in the city is on the plantation. They don't care because they're making all the money. That's why he's wealthy. And you look at Jesse Jackson, who was supposedly he was with Martin Luther King Jr. the day he was shot and killed. And it's very interesting because I did a video about that. He was with him, and he kind of disappears when Martin Luther King gets shot basically into the neck, and severs his spinal cord and kills him. And then Jesse Jackson comes running out and puts his hands in the blood. He's like, and he gets some blood on his shirt. And he's like, oh gosh, this is, he says some weird stuff. Then he gets all these appointments to go on TV that night and the next morning, but he didn't have time to change his bloody shirt. You see what we're looking at here? He was absolutely behind it.
Since you mentioned Halloween, this is October. I don't mind you talking about it, and we're going to get to the phone issue here.
I think it's all related.
It's all related.
We're speaking spiritual warfare.
Absolutely, friend. Tell me a little bit about October and these rituals. Why is October? You do have Halloween. Talk to me a little bit about some of the rituals that you think are going on and why there's an increased ritual presence in this month. Because it is and what's sad to me about it, I'm a photographer. I've been with for 20 years. I love this time of the year. I love the colors. I love the fall. I love the harvest theme. It's fall, the cooler temperatures, things are cooling down. We've had this hot summer. It's just a breath of fresh air to me. It's a beautiful season. It's a beautiful season.
Yes, it is.
And yet it seems that there's the most evil that sort of overrides that beauty in this time of the year more than any other that we experienced in the whole calendar year.
Ask any ex-Satanist or look at any video from any of these ex-Satanists or witches, and they'll tell you what kind of holiday Halloween really is. I inform my children, because it's a process, I inform my children that this is the first year we will not carve a pumpkin and put it at our door. We're not going to answer the door for trick-or-treaters. And there's a reason for that, because it's come to my attention that I could be inviting demonic activity just by doing something that they do in rituals. They do. It's not that me carving a pumpkin means a demon's going to come to my door, but it's the fact that they're doing rituals to make that happen. They're casting spells so that we would invite demons with our jack-o'-lanterns, and then when we open the door, we let them in. So I'm not doing that this year. And the thing is I even told my children, God is bigger. I could do those things, and then we could cast them all out. Why would I bother doing that? Why wouldn't I just not do it? So And they handled it fine. They're like, can we go house to house? And I said, yes, you can go get candy if other people want to let them, and they can. What's scary is the other people don't know. They don't even know, so they don't know to cast them out. They don't know. And I didn't know, and I'm doing okay. So this is not, I'm never here to scare people. It's be prepared, not scared. God is always bigger. But there's just certain things I want to avoid now that I know them. And they do these things in ritual. Halloween is their holiday. And you talk to an ex-Satanist and they'll tell you what they did on those. There's always a blood, always a blood sacrifice, whether it's human or animal. There always is at least one in Eden Coven or in any Satan church, whatever you call it. And it's happening everywhere. And that night they work overtime. We go to church for an hour on Sunday and people are like, I gotta go. These guys they're at church for 14, 15, 16 hours doing rituals repeatedly from beginning to end and celebrating Satan. And then we're out there celebrating it too. It's like, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. It's a druid ritual of Halloween, Samhain. And I mean, they offered these kids to their heathen gods, burned them under the fire. That's what the Bible refers to, passing them through the fire. You've called your children to pass through the fire. Literally, they did. I mean, this is what the heathen did, Erin. And look, I look at this abortion issue over this country, over this world, really. It's a global thing. We say about America, but honestly, America is only a part of this. We are playing a role in a more sinister global effort to bring the world into a Luciferian age where this is norm. And that's why it's being considered norm. That's why that you come up and say stuff against this stuff. You're the one that's labeled the lunacy. You're the one that's labeled the lunatic and the idiot. And it's not norm. It's not normal to kill babies. It's not a normal civilized society. Don't do this. We don't do stuff like this if we're civilized. And we sure as hell don't put them in a fire. We don't throw kids into the fire and offer up to a heathen god with his arms out like that, and you put the baby on the arms and you burn a fire underneath, and then you go out and beat drums to basically keep the sound of the baby's screams from being heard, because y'all all of a sudden have a conscience, that you don't have a conscience to put the baby on the idol's arm and let the fire kill him, but you got a conscience enough to try to not to hear the screams. Look, that's heathen. That's demonic. And that is diabolical debauchery. And civilized societies don't do it. But I think the way I look at this, that when we allow abortion to go unfettered and we make it legal and we don't try to stop it and we put money in the hands of Planned Parenthood, which is nothing but a baby-killing organization, we're doing no different than the heathens did in the day of Jeremiah, in the days of Solomon, in the days of the kingdom. And you mentioned David. And yes, that's one reason why God told David emphatically, when you go into those promised land tribes, those Canaanites, Hittites, Jebusites, whatever ites there was, he didn't just say kill the army. He said you wipe them all out, you kill the women and the children too. There's a reason why he did that.
Well, and if you look at Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, and Chelsea Clinton, look at what they're raising. They're raising the same thing. So they're doing it to the children. They're messing up their minds. They're creating altars, and they're schizoid. They could barely handle life. Now, I'm not saying we don't want to help them, and I'm going to put a video out with somebody who, like I said, I have a friend who has MK Ultra programming and is very legitimate. And she's also friends with Dr. B, and everybody's kind of gotten to learn who Dr. B is, I think, from SUT report. And if you haven't, she's a physician that she's a pathologist, and she talks about abortion and having to be forced to go through aborted body parts as a physician in her residency. So anyway, me and Brooke were talking about some of this MK Ultra programming and everything, and she knows a lot more about the rituals because she's been through them. She's been there. She's born into an elite bloodline. And what I'll say about the programming part of it is they've been trying to program all of us. And so yes, they've gotten us to agree to abortion. They've gotten us to agree to wanting to be okay with LGBTQ, even in the churches. They've just turned everything upside down, and anymore the churches got turned off by looking at end times and eschatological times because of the 80s with the end of the world and everything, and all these preachers coming out and saying it. Now even the church won't even touch those subjects. Right. So nobody's trying to say, what should we worry about? What should we think about? Because that's a reason why I was going to talk about the phone and the black mirror and the scrying mirror. Because trying to get us to do these things like the abortions and trying to get us to be okay with equal special rights, not equal at all, but special rights for certain communities and not for Christians and not for white men, And then the other thing is our TVs. Our TVs, they've tried to program us for years and years and years, and it's not working that well for them. You know, so they've come up with new and better ideas. If anyone looks into demonic activity, what they'll know is most demons, unless they're fallen angels and ancient, need a body. They need body, whether it's an animal,
that's correct,
a human, something living to be a part of. And I don't know if people know this, but our phones and a lot of phones now, I don't have it in front of me which ones, but I have a video that says exactly which ones. And a lot of TVs coming out with an organic layer, basically a living layer in the phone and the TV, and it's giving you this great image. It's a beautiful image. And on your TV, it'll be 3D and it's curved, and it'll be all around you, and you won't know what's real and what's not. And I think I have to tend to believe that that is a new way of programming, because if you don't mind, I'll just kind of
go ahead,
explain the scrying mirror. So with witchcraft, there's something called a scrying mirror. How to make people most familiar with that would be Snow White with the Wicked Witch, mirror, mirror on the wall. She's conjuring something to tell her what's going on out in the world. And so the scrying mirror is basically something where somebody looks into it and they kind of relax their eyes and they become transfixed, and they start to be able to see what's happening in the world, what they want to see, what other people are doing. But what are we doing when we're on these? You know, we're just so transfixed on these things. And so as we relax our eyes and becomes transfixed on our own black mirror, and are we allowing channeled beings in? I don't know how well it works, right? So I did a whole video. I won't try to talk for too long at once here, but I did a video on how the electricity could be involved with that because of the sulfur. The sulfur is good for static electricity. Satan fell as lightning. That's a sulfur smell. And then we have like a lot of electricity and airwaves and things like that in the universe, in our universe. I'm not talking about a universe. I'm not talking about a galaxy. I'm talking about the actual earthly universe. And the all the things that have been said to smell like sulfur, like the Sasquatch, the Chupacabra, the Men in Black, UFOs, fairies, you know, anything that has been made to make us think it's anything but demonic activity always has a sulfuric smell. And it seems to be related to some kind of passage, possibly from another dimension.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at Luke 10:18, where he says Satan fell as lightning. They saw Satan fall as lightning and the sulfur smell. And then you Sodom and Gomorrah with the sulfur coming down. So I think, not to confuse people, but it's the electricity of the electronics can help those entities move back and forth, I think. And if you get an organic layer, can they possess your phone or your TV?
It's interesting.
And it's something to think about, because they're now trying to do digital DNA storage, where I don't know whose DNA they're using, but they're taking data and they're storing it on DNA, because it can store vast amounts of data on DNA. And you can run vast amount of data with quantum computers, which again, they're trying with transhumanism to create organic parts. And so what I see for this kind, I mean, I could go into.
Go ahead, keep going. You're fine. We got you're no rush. You take your time and explain.
I don't want it to go. I want to make sure I say things so that I don't skip something and go over people's heads. But when you start putting organic layers and using DNA for data storage, it's a transhumanism thing of merging iron and clay that is spoken about in scripture. And I usually have these things written down, but in Daniel 12:43, so about the iron and clay. And so I think that's the iron where the clay. You think about Iron Man. They being the controllers, they want this transhumanism because it's a way to live forever. It's a way to stay forever on earth in eternity and be God themselves. So they got to find ways to get us to want to do that. And one of the ways is to get us more transfixed in our phones and our electronics. And we have to use these things. So as you can see, I'm on a computer now. I have a phone next to me. I've got 2 tablets over here and a television. So I'm not saying we have to get rid of these things, but let's pray over our electronics, right? Because, and I would say don't buy the organic ones, but we should be praying over these things and just casting anything out that might be coming through them, because we have to use them. We're using them in order to create these videos and get our messages out. And God is always bigger. But the transhumanist agenda is one of the things we have to be careful, because again, talking about eschatological times, we want to make sure that we are not going to take the mark of the beast, because then we're done. And so I'm looking at, where's the mark going to come? Is it going to come in the form of a transhuman merger that I won't be able to take back, in a vaccine that changes my DNA, programmable matter? So I've got a lot of videos on this, and it's all pre-related, but it's spiritual warfare at the base of it all. It's spiritual warfare, demonic activity, and we want to fight it.
Do you think that this technology that is taking place, like you described, or do you think that it's part of the reason why? Is this the Luciferian goal to bring? Is this part of the one world order thing that they can control us? Because look, the thing about your cell phone, Erin, that people don't realize, and my brother told me this the other night. I didn't realize this, but the spying that they do.
Yes.
I mean, I've got this video camera hooked up to my computer, and he was just joking around with me. He says, put something over that camera at night, put something over your phone, because they've got to the point that they can look at you right through your phone, and you don't even know that they're looking at you. And is that legitimate? Is that a legitimate concern?
Yes, absolutely. They already have been doing that. In fact, Mike Pence talked about it when he said China was putting these rice-sized chips in our phones and everything, in our electronics, and that's how they've taken over a lot of the military planes, in my belief. Wow. We've seen a lot of military planes going down.
Yeah.
And one thing, so I like to look to movies. Definitely like to look to movies for some truth. And there was a movie called The Pulse, and it's a bit older. But if you look at that movie, there's spirits coming through this guy's computer, but before they come through, they just see him in the computer. And the girl says, how long have you been watching these people? And he goes, well, really the question is, how long have they been watching me? Now, yeah, human beings are doing it, but now I know you know the answer, but is God omnipresent? Is God omnipresent?
Yes.
Of course he is. Is Satan?
He's not omnipresent, but he's not omnipresent. No.
No. How could he be? How could he get a great way to see everything where exactly?
Because everybody's got one, pretty much.
So the question is, while we were watching this, how long has he been watching us?
Well, and let me just say this. I think it was Grant Jeffrey. Grant's been I haven't heard much from him. He's got a great ministry. He's wrote several books, but one of the books that he wrote a few years back was called Surveillance Society. And he delved into this very thing you're talking about, how that even, and look, we all saw it, we all see it, and we go under a red light. There's a camera that is there to monitor speedings. But if you notice, Erin, a lot of those cameras have increased in number.
Yes.
Like it's been gazillions of them. You can't go down a block in a city, anywhere, even in a small town, without seeing one of those cameras. And look, ultimately, the very technology that they're using to quote unquote protect us from terrorism, it's going to be turned. If that gets in the wrong hands and that technology gets in the people's hands that have all these Luciferian desires and means to take over this world, those same cameras are going to be used to monitor every single move you make. And the way they get into your home is through this little device right here. And I'm telling you, again, a lot of people may just laugh that off, and they can laugh it off if they want to. I don't laugh it off. I think it's a legitimate concern that we should have, that it's going on right now. I think the seeds, I'll put it like this. I don't know if it's fully implemented yet, but I will tell you this, it's being implemented right now, and the seeds of it are definitely in place right now for a global takeover at some point in the future. That is, I believe, going on. That's my opinion.
Well, absolutely, because there is, I can't think of the name, a person of interest. I just thought of it. So there's a TV show, again, looking at TV shows and movies, a person of interest where they do have the cameras everywhere, and a quantum computer, if you ask me, I don't know what they call it, a quantum computer in the TV show, but it's so fast, it can run millions of, alternative methods in a second, and it can see everything all at once. It can be omnipresent as well, because anywhere that there was Wi-Fi, this computer could see. Now, of course, in the TV show, it was the good guys. It was the good guys were taking back control, which when I made my Who is Q video, I offered that that's a possibility. What Trump did is took back control, because we know Hillary had the keys to to look at our phones and have backdoor into our Chrome, even not just your computer, the browser itself had the ability to access. And then you didn't even have to be on Facebook, but your friends had to be on Facebook, and you as a contact, and your contacts were known. Their contacts were known, so you were known. And so all these things have been going on for already years. So there's not a lot we can do about what's already done, which is a reason why I don't try to even pretend to be anonymous. I had told people, I urged people in my last video, and I know some people feel they have a really good reason for it, and maybe they do because there's a protective you know, maybe they've had their life threatened. But people will want to hurt us because of what we believe. People want to quiet us down. I've already had FBI called on me saying I was suicidal and homicidal for saying I wouldn't, you know, to have to imagine the alternative plans I'd have to make if Hillary Clinton had been elected and how scary that could have been. But I would have, and it doesn't matter. I've said it, I've talked about it a million times on my own channel, but they want to hurt us. But the more they try is my name is known. I don't wear a mask. I don't hide my faith, and I don't hide behind political correctness, and I say what I think. They won't be able to do that call. They'll never be able to call the FBI on me again like that, because the police came to my house. They were kind of embarrassed. They knew that it seemed like a false call. Thank God, everything went well. But now they know somebody tried to do that to me and they know the reason, because of my YouTube channel. And so it's going to be pretty hard to get them to try to hurt me that way again. So I say the more they know who we are, the more we talk about these things, they're going to hate us and want to shut us down. But we have God on our side, and we can pray over our electronics and pray over our homes and pray over protection and we can even cancel anything that's been cast against us as far as any kind of hex or if anybody's been doing rituals in our name, even to try to harm us or hex us. We have God on our side, and we can clear that stuff out, but be watchful, not scared, so that we don't accidentally fall into I'm telling you, I just heard this guy talk about it the other day, and I had talked about it before too. Imagine if they came out with a vaccine that cured cancer and made sure you never had it again. How many people would get that vaccine? Or what if it changed your DNA, reprogrammed your DNA, or gave you a third strand? Well, now you're transhuman. Right. Now you're the hybrid. Now you've got the mark. And I heard a pastor say this the other day. His wife does currently have cancer. It was crazy to me. He was saying exactly what I said. He goes, if they came to me and said, we have a cure, and in fact, she'll never get it again, said the same words I did, but we have to reprogram her DNA. He goes, I had to think about that. Would I do that? Because I want my wife now, or would I let her die? And I say, don't give it. That's a hard decision. I had to think about it with my own children. We have to think worst case scenario so that we still don't accept the mark.
It's very true. Let me ask you this question about the surveillance stuff. It would come to mind as we were talking. Are the good guys really good guys? Is because a lot of times again, I hear the argument whenever they increase security in our country, and I truly believe that there's a need for that. There's a need for the president. Look, the president's number one job is to protect us from all enemies, domestic and foreign. And if he sees a threat, look, the whole goal of terrorism is to cause a society to do just exactly what America has done. That's go inward. That is to clamp down on security, to make our lives miserable. Look, it takes you 4 hours now just about to catch a flight at the airport because of what you have to go through in the lines for security. But ultimately, are the same people that are screaming for us to be safe, are they doing it not knowing that the bad guys are wanting this, or are they part of the same network and they're just doing it? They're almost like the patsy for the bad guys. And I'm not trying to make this into a game of cowboys and Indians. What I'm trying to make it into is that, are we looking at a network of people that you've got the implementers that are implementing this stuff and they know good and well what's coming, or are they doing it innocently and then, whenever this does turn around and somebody else gets it, they're going to say, oh my God, we never intended for this technology to be used like this. I think it's a little bit of both.
Yes, I agree with you. I think that there are people out there that are good people, and they're part of these companies pushing a technology that they just don't understand, because either they don't have a faith like we do, or they might, but they don't want, it's a lukewarm faith, right? And I say lukewarm for most people because they're really not looking at the things that you and I are looking at. You're not hearing this in church sermons unless you listen to Pastor Charles Lawson out of Tennessee, who's wonderful. I mean, he talks about this stuff. And I can't believe his church isn't jam-packed. I'd be there I'd be there for all 3 services a week. I swear to God, he's so good. But, you don't have anybody in the church talking about these things. So otherwise, you're kind of a lukewarm Christian, if you ask me, and get offended if you want to. It's on you. But what I would say is there's so many people with good intentions. They want to cure cancer. They don't know that there probably already is one. They want to, help technology for our children. They love people and want to help people. There are Masons that are good people. There are Catholics that are good people. There are Mormons that are good. There are good people in every facet. And there's good scientists and there's good technological people that don't know exactly what you said. They don't realize it. And if they see it come to pass, again, there'll also be people that think, oh, if I get this this injection, think superpowers. I can have superpowers. Well, all the movies and all the things that they show you is all DNA modification to get those superpowers, or transhumanism, which is, again, DNA modification. If they started saying, well, you can do that now, it's a trick, guys, because you're going to get that and you're not going to get the superpowers, because only the elite get to really have those. And the rest of us are all going to be controlled when it comes through the airwaves, and it just stops us in our tracks and our eyes glaze over, because they can completely control us. Because they didn't work with Morgellons because we didn't say yes to it. They spray our crops with that stuff and they put it in the air, but we didn't say yes. So it's just not as, I mean, it's hurting people. It's causing a lot of serious illness, but they're not able to switch them on and off with it. So now we have to accept it and say, yes, I want that. If it comes in the form of superpowers, if it comes in the form of a cure for cancer, if it comes in a form for a cure for lupus or other man-made diseases that we think are not man-made, that God gave, cancer especially. So many people are going to say, yeah, let me do it. And then they're going to be lockstep zombies at that. I think it may not happen overnight.
I've had you on my show many times. I've never really discussed this with you. I guess it's all connected and tied. You mentioned the food, the crops, the pesticides being put on our food and all. And it goes without saying, Erin, that I think we'd probably be in agreement with each other that we're being killed off. They're doing it slowly, maybe, but their ultimate goal, this whole Luciferian goal, is to have a population they can control. And look, folks like me and you that have our head on a swivel, we're not, we're not pushing, we're not embracing this left-wing lunacy.
Right.
They're doing everything they can to isolate us and ultimately kill us. The vaccines, the things that are going on in our country right now with what we're giving our kids and things like that. Do you see the same sinister goal in that like I do? Do you think that this is deliberate? Do you think that these vaccinations, these things, that the food, the water, the air, all of these things are tied together? Do you think it's population control, or is there something even more sinister than that they're trying to do?
Yeah, I think it's even more sinister than population control, because I think, if you look to the Georgia Guidestones,
yes,
you could look to the Georgia Guidestones and say, well, okay, what do these say? And we know that that's where they're going off. There's so much on the Georgia Guidestones too, with the numbers, and I don't know all that stuff, but I know enough to know truth when I hear it. It just hits you, because I make a lot of connections in my mind. And so I think that the Georgia Guidestones are a pretty interesting place to look for what they're doing. And then you can go back to that TED Talk with Bill Gates, where he says we need to work on overpopulation problem, and vaccines are going to help with that. Vaccines and abortion or something like that, he says, is going to help with that. And then he also said we need to start spraying chemicals in the sky because of global warming. And look at our skies. It makes me so frustrated. I prayed this morning for about 10 minutes on my drive home from I was working on a house with a friend to here, just praying about our skies, that God would just he would just put a force field over this town from those chemicals, because the sky is littered, nobody is looking up. In fact, everybody, and I'm going to offend some people, but Serial Brain 2 is out here saying that now Trump is spraying the skies with good chemicals and he's reversing it. And that's when I said, all right, I'm done with this guy, because no, he's not. Look up and it hasn't changed. And maybe there was a few days after that, after China Lake, after some of those earthquakes, that our skies were clear for a while. We were really hopeful. And then it came back worse. It came back worse. What do I think is in it? Obviously, heavy metals and nanotechnology. If you don't think there's nanotechnology in this, you're not paying attention. It is so easy to find that information. Those are little robots that now have the ability to swarm. And when those things can swarm and they can be told what to do, okay, now do we have the right ones in us? Not really, because they're not working. That again, I say the Morgellons is the what they're calling the disease that you see these, where the wire, they have the sensation and the feelings, and it sounds like Lyme disease. Lyme disease, another version. Syphilis is related. All been pushed on us on purpose to try to put nanobot control in our bodies and force the transhumanism. It hasn't worked very well. My opinion is it hasn't worked. So they've come up with a programmable matter and a third strand of DNA that they're going to lay with, I believe, gold. You can listen to Anthony Patch talk about that. Anthony Patch is great about talking about the third strand, but that will be, what has Satan been trying to do from the garden? He has been trying to corrupt our DNA.
Yes.
Because our DNA is God-given, God-written.
Absolutely.
And God is in our DNA. Jesus is in our DNA. The Holy Spirit is in our DNA. So for people that not say, God's not real, and that's not fair because there's people in the world that won't know God. It's been written in our DNA to know there's a God, whether they call him Jesus or not, right? I'm not talking about Mormons. I'm talking about people that have never heard of Jesus.
Right.
And so it's been written in our DNA. If it weren't, then he wouldn't need to corrupt it. And so anyway, speaking on the food, and they've been trying to corrupt our DNA. Cancer is trying to corrupt our DNA. Tell me this, did you know that cancer spreads so much because it doesn't die? Our cells die because it has things on the end called telomeres. And every time your cells split, those get shorter and shorter and shorter. And that's why we age. Why doesn't cancer do that? Its telomeres never shorten. There's some kind of technology to that.
Yeah. Well, we've had a few people on our show here recently, Ole Domagard and Judith Berry Baker, who incidentally was the partner and love interest of Lee Harvey Oswald. And Lee Harvey and her were actually were working. That's the other kicker about Lee Oswald. I should say Lee Oswald. She told me that he hated that term Harvey. The media gave him that, and it was not by design. But her and Ollie both, Ole told our audiences, Erin, that cancer was weaponized by the CIA through the polio vaccinations of the 1960s. And again, Chris,
I believe it.
Learned something.
No,
I didn't know that. I do believe that. Absolutely, I do. And they predicted these evil, wicked people, these same people we're talking about that are pushing the abortion and pushing the LGBT stuff. They predicted when this was going on that it would take about 30 to 40 years before cancer would be able to be unleashed on society and just become the weapon and monster that it is. And you go back and do the math, and it was about the late 90s, mid to late 90s and into the 2000s that we began to hear of cancer taking out so many people. Back in our time, my time, when I was, 1980, I was a sophomore in high school then, and it was a smoking disease then. I mean, you hear somebody have cancer. I've said this on the show a lot lately, but I'll say it again. When you heard about cancer back in that day, it was either somebody was smoking, or they were overweight, or it was a fluke. You'd get one cancer out of 20. Heart attacks was a big thing back in that day. You didn't hear a lot about diabetes back in the 1980s. Right. You didn't hear a lot about that. But now, it's just like every time we are having an epidemic of people dying of cancer. And there's all types of cancer now. There's lung cancer, there's throat cancer, there's liver cancer, pancreas cancer, colon cancer, brain cancer. I didn't know you could get cancer in your brain, but there's brain cancer, and there's bone cancer. So these people
there's cancer of the lymph, which is just the fluids that run
exactly. Yeah, in skin, melanoma. You can get a blood
cancers,
and it's crazy. The point is, all this stuff has been weaponized, and it is going back to those Georgia Guidestones and the powers that be. And we can put Bill Gates in that. We can put a lot of people in that. It's not just one person. It's a network. It's a network of people. And but their goal is population destruction, Erin. It is. I do believe that. And it's a sinister thing what they're doing, but they're getting away with it because the people that try to stand up to them, they're not heard from for long without some kind of action being taken to silence them.
Yeah, if you've got a cure for cancer and you're doing it a lot and well, you're taken out, like that Dr. Sibby. And I know a lot of people think Nipsey Hussle and Dr. Sibby, Nipsey Hussle died because he was trying to help do a documentary, and Dr. Sibby, I don't think it was that simple. I think he knew it was coming, but I'm not going to get into that. What I will say is, just a curiosity, because I was in medicine for 10 years. I studied medicine. I was trained incorrectly for 2 straight years of boom boom. Like they just hit you really hard. It's indoctrination of the fake medical aspect, but that's really good, right? Because there's a lot of things I do know and understand now that I wouldn't have known if I hadn't have worked in the medical field for 10 years as a PA, which is basically like a physician and provider. So what I would find interesting is a wonder, because we see a lot of things not working out, but they become our diseases. So the question I just asked myself, if they can create something that the telomeres don't shorten, but they still haven't figured out how to live forever, then they haven't figured out how to do that for their own bodies and their clones yet. And so I wonder if cancer was a mistake. I mean, they want to kill us, so they don't mind putting it on us and unleashing it on us, but it's in their laboratories and all their testing and stuff, where they started creating a way to stop the cell from dying after duplication and duplication and duplication. But because it is not from God, and they'll never figure this out, it just became evil. And I believe that because just yesterday when I was talking with Brooke, who had some of the MK Ultra programming, when she prayed at the end, it was wonderful prayer. She's a real prayer warrior. I think you'll really enjoy that when you listen to it, the whole thing. But she said, she specifically spoke cancer. She said, cancer does not belong on this world, and I want it to cast out into the pit. And I was like, that's amazing. And what she said made perfect sense, and right at that moment to me, that this is something demonic. This is not something, everybody wants to go, God wouldn't let this happen. God wouldn't let this happen. And I'm like, well, you just don't understand what man has been up to, because God didn't. Never did this. That wasn't the world that he made. That wasn't the earth that he made. It was never meant for that. That was never meant for us. Yeah.
Good stuff, my friend. Erin, I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to wrap us up. I do want to ask you about your gold and silver. Are you still involved with the silver trade and people investing in that? Tell us a little bit about that real quick, and then I'll let you wrap us up.
Yes. So part of being prepared and not scared is having the right kind of money, because if there's a crash and your dollar is not going to go very far anymore, or the hyperinflation that we saw in Venezuela, should the socialists take over, but even if they don't, even if there's a transition with President Trump into a new gold standard or some kind of economy crash before he can make a change, that's a very likely possibility. Now, I'm not saying that silver is the only thing. I'm not saying it's the first best thing that people could start doing if they don't know where to start when it comes to prepping, because there's a lot of things to have to do, and I guarantee it feels overwhelming when you say, I want to sit down and learn how to prep for end times. But what I say is, when you have a blackout, how long are you going to make it, right? And so what they call that is power. They say, your power's out, your power's out. Well, stop letting them have the power in your life. Take back your own power, because that's just electricity. That's all that is. It's not power. And this is one of those things that, I have a whole bunch of silver, but a lot of this is because I'm able to exchange it and use it even with people today. If I go to my car mechanic, I can pay him in this. He'll take it. A tattoo artist would take it. But there are states now, there's 9 states that will accept it as actual currency. Now, I don't know what they're saying this, if they're going to say this is worth what silver is set at the New York Stock Exchange, but I would imagine so, because the New York Stock Exchange is what sets the spot price for silver. And so 2 ounces today is worth about $36. So, and you think about that, years ago, 2 ounces was only worth about $3. So that's the inflation part that you're seeing. It's not that gold and silver are worth any more money. It's that the dollar is dropping in value. And so this is something that's spoken about biblically as used for money. And it's only evil when you use it as an idol, just like dollars. But dollars are literally worthless. There's nothing to back it. The reason that this is worth money is because it takes a physical effort and time to get it out of the ground and then refine it and turn it into anything that we can use. And it's been done for thousands of years. And so this is real money. You can go to crypto if you like. I just am skeptical because of quantum computers, if that really becomes a thing for everybody. Quantum computers don't just do ones and zeros of binary, it's everything in between. And therefore your crypto is no longer the cryptography, because it's a new system. It's not written for that. And so I think it wouldn't be anonymous anymore. And so this is still an anonymous way to purchase money, to exchange your money. So yes, I'm very much into it. I hold raffles, because if people they don't know how to just start buying or who to trust, I've done enough raffles and sent out to enough people that I have people that would certainly back up, say, I always send out what they win, and it's always real silver, and they can get it checked at any coin shop. But raffles are a way to just get it in people's hands for really inexpensive. Buy a $10 spot, and you could win 2 ounces of silver, So
okay, that's interesting.
I have raffles on my YouTube community channel, but I mention them in my videos. And so yes, I very much am into this business still.
What's your silver website again?
So it's 7kmetals.com/Lady Liberty.
7K Metals. Lady Liberty, and that is your Twitter handle as well, Lady Liberty.
Not anymore. I got suspended.
Did you get suspended? I didn't know that.
Yes, for the end of time. So if I ever go on there with my phone number or any information about who I really am ever again, it immediately takes it down. Good. So I've been eternally banned from Twitter. But I do have a new Twitter page, and it's I can't remember the but I called myself Abby someone after the movie Young Frankenstein, where he says, "Where did you get that brain?" And he says, Abby someone because I couldn't. Somebody already had Abby normal, so
Okay.
it's Twitter. I just kind of use it to get some news. So you can find me on YouTube primarily. That's the best way to go. And I have an email. It's ladyliberty@countermail.com. Super easy to remember.
Yeah.
I do answer emails. I answer all emails. Good so job. Anyone can email me.
Buddy, this has been good stuff. And we are still fairly in the middle part of October. And we will have you back on soon. I want to get with you again and do more of this ritual stuff and maybe get more in the depth of some of these rituals that are going on over our country. But Erin, you've got a gift, and I thank you for your insight, these things. And I do encourage people, look, if you want to get an education, go to her YouTube channel. That's how I found her, and that's why we reached out to her. It's been about 3 or 4 months ago. It was back before the summer. And Erin's been on our show 3 or 4 times, and we're going to have her back on again soon. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, final thoughts, wrap us up, anything you want to share real quick, and we'll call it a day.
I would just say, we get into a lot of stuff. It's deep, it's intellectual, and it's confusing, but it's not salvational. We have the Bible, we have Jesus Christ, and we have the Holy Spirit and our one true God, and that is truly salvational. And none of this is to scare anybody. You don't have to know it. It's fun for us. Mostly there's ugly stuff, but it's become where now we can make these connections. But it's not for anyone else to have to worry about. We're here trying to spread a message of love, and we want everyone to know that all you need is Jesus, and you need your scripture, and you've got salvation. So these are fun topics. They're very interesting. Some of it's dark, and I think it's good for people to know, but I just want people to know, don't stress, you're saved.
I like your saying, prepared, not scared. And I think that's what we need to be. And that's super. That is really super. Erin Moffett, thank you so much, friend. I appreciate you. And we'll be reaching out to you again soon. God bless you out there. God bless your families. God bless this great, great nation of America. If you see Erin's contact information on the screen, please let her know that you heard her tonight on the MacFiles. She'll appreciate that, and we'll have her back on soon. I'll be back with a final thought right after this. Erin Moffett, thank you so much again, friend. Appreciate you.
Grateful.
Until next time. You're very grateful for you. We'll be back. Hey guys, Chris McDonald. Quick final thought on this one. I will come back since I just said I would. It's 8:42 in the East, 10:15. Darius Mayfield tonight on the regular MacFiles broadcast. Join us then. It'll be a great show tonight. Thanks to Erin Moffett for doing a great job on the early bird special on this Tuesday night, the 29th of October. And we just appreciate Erin coming on the show. And I want to thank her again. I just got to show you this because Houston, we do not want to have a problem tonight in Game 6 of the World Series. And if Leslie Milway's out there listening, I just wanted to show her that I got my Astros shirt on tonight. It was pathetic what the national fans did to the president the other night, booing him. And I hope the Nationals lose by 50 tonight. I really do. And I'll just leave it at that. We'll talk more about that on the after show. God bless you out there. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. Thank you all for your support of the show. PayPal.me/TheMacFiles, Patreon.com/TheMacFiles, P.O. Box 23921, Knoxville 37933. See you tonight at 10:15, folks. Got a lot to talk about. You'll enjoy Darius Mayfield. Enjoy the rest of your evening until then, and be blessed. Erin Moffett, thank you so much, sweet. Blessed time tonight. Great show tonight. Thank you for your information. See you tonight at 10:15, guys. Be blessed.